Today's video, we're gonna talk about mobile traffic and tablet traffic versus desktop traffic and how much more money you can make with desktop-only traffic on certain campaigns and mobile-only traffic on certain campaigns. You need to know the difference so you can maximize the profitability on your ads running on Google Ads, okay? So ultimately, I'm gonna tell you just how much exactly you can make going desktop only, mobile only, tablet only on this video. If you stay to the end of the video, we'll go over some hard numbers in terms of what you make going one way or the other. And I'm going to talk about the different markets where one would actually be better than the other and vice versa. So you have everything you need to replicate this on your own for your business. So getting into the content, mobile and tablet traffic is pretty much grouped into the same category with one another. If mobile works, tablet will work, but more importantly, they kind of work similarly. That is, when we're talking about the actual ROI or ROAS that you're going to get on your campaign, mobile and traffic are going to perform similarly, okay? So, but desktop is in its own category. It typically performs differently than what mobile and tablet traffic is going to perform at in terms of ROI/ROAS. All right, so know that up front. Now, depending on what you're doing, you're going to have different levels of performance on one versus the other. What I did on this whiteboard here is break out what you could typically expect on one versus the other category when you're talking about running display campaigns. That is, any place that you're running ads outside of Google search or google.com, if you will. Also, when you're talking about when you're running ads on google.com, broken out by shopping and then search placements, text ads versus the image ads with the price underneath it, in other words, I'm going to also talk about what the general known conversion rate /ROAS/ROI you're going to get on each one of those. And then, of course, if you're talking about non-e-commerce or doing lead generation, your ROI is going to be different in that situation versus e-commerce, which I'm going to break that out separately as well. So, but what I will tell you also is the price in which you're selling your goods at, if you're selling product, will vary also whether desktop versus mobile works and, at what level on each. Given that typically, if you're selling something for super cheap, $20, you'll typically do better on mobile/tablet versus desktop. It's still going to do worse, but not as bad. Whereas the more expensive of what you sell is, the more desktop is going to have a lead in terms of the ROI it can generate. Generally speaking, the clicks are going to be more expensive on desktop, but it's going to convert better. The bottom line is the ROI is better on desktop. If you sell something for $100,000, you're going to do a lot better on desktop. Whereas with $20 items, the gap is closer together. So I could go all day in terms of different scenarios, this market, that market. So I'll just go through some generalities here that will cover most of the bases of what you need to cover to know whether you're going to use mobile versus desktop traffic for your business. So if we say right off the bat here that what we sell is between $100 and $1,000, okay? In that case, display traffic, that is PMAX campaigns, which are heavy display traffic, display campaigns themselves, YouTube campaigns, and demand gen campaigns. So we're talking about, again, traffic that we're running outside of the search engine on Google itself, google.com. Typically in that situation, desktop traffic is going to deliver 30 to 50% higher ROAS or ROI on your ad spend than mobile and tablet traffic. So what does this tell you? Well, very simply, if you're not getting the return you want, and let's say you're 30% shy or 50% shy of your goal, I would just completely dump all my ad spend directly into desktop traffic, which naturally you can't do so easily with PMAX itself, but with these other campaign types, you can. So for that matter, PMAX, that's one of the drawbacks with PMAX is you have less control, which is why I rail against it so much. If you can make money with PMAX, you'll make even more with standalone campaigns because you have all the controls available to you. And if you know what you're doing in terms of using those controls, you'll get a better return because you can weed out bad traffic, you can maximize good traffic, and you can use the data that I give you on these videos on this channel to your advantage to make the campaigns better than what you can with PMax. So that is the deal in terms of e-commerce and, an average price item, $100 to $1,000. What you can expect, desktop's going to do better. Now, if we're talking about shopping campaigns now, going into this, that is the first of the 2 spots on google.com that you can run your ads. With shopping campaigns selling the same $100 to $1,000 item, a desktop traffic is going to typically, in this case, deliver a 50 to 80% higher ROAS than mobile traffic, like in this particular case. So shopping, desktop does much better as a whole, at least in that middle of the ground or mid-range price point. Now, if you're selling, just to give you some comparison here, if you're selling something for $20 broom, whatever, and then in that particular case, it's not going to be 50 to 80% higher. It's going to be more like 20 to 50% higher. Whereas if you're on the other end of the spectrum selling something for multi-thousands, then you're going to be talking about desktop traffic is going to be 1 to 2 times better in terms of ROI, or twice as good to 3 times as good. So it's on the other side of the spectrum, and really, really good on desktop, whereas really, really poor on mobile. So just know, the more expensive of the product that you sell, the better desktop is going to do for shopping campaigns. But also applies obviously with display, and it's just going to be more of a premium with shopping placements than with your typical display placements. Now, when you're talking about those search campaigns now, going into this, now with search campaigns, that is the text ads on Google versus the image ads with the price underneath it, your desktop traffic is going to typically deliver 30% higher ROAS than what your mobile/tablet traffic is going to deliver. Okay? Generally speaking, by the way, in terms of where I got this data from, I manage about 50 different Google Ads accounts at any given time in terms of doing the strategy, and I've got a really good team that I personally train to do some of the groundwork on what we need to do day to day, week to week on the accounts to get the results. And my job at the firm is to just lay out strategy and direct a team to execute that strategy and check over their work. And that is the best of both worlds between a consultant and a full-blown agency. That's what we do at Guarantee PPC. That's how we are able to offer a guaranteed result when other firms don't. But with that said, I'm able to take an average over all of our client accounts to give you this data. So I have hard data, and I've got accounts that we've ran for close to 10 years. So we're not a churn and burn agency where we're averaging 8 months with the client and that's it, because as soon as the client finds out that they're not getting results, they quit, and they do little to nothing in the meantime. So they keep all your money and take it all as profit and then use part of that so-called profit to find the next client. We're banking on a client lasting a long time because we're putting so much work in at the beginning to even get it profitable for them that it doesn't make sense if they're not going to last longer than that. We're not profitable as an agency. So with that said, there's really solid data here going back 10 years on accounts and in a great plethora of different markets. So you can see this data is going to be accurate ultimately. And speaking of this, by the way, I really try my best to look at the questions people are wondering about online, also that come to our firm, ask questions in which people won't know because they don't have access to 50 accounts to get data from. And as a result of that, they are just constantly testing things. They think something might work and they've got to just run it to figure out how it works. Whereas myself, I've done this probably 20 times before. I've done it for you, so I kind of know what to expect up front. I make these videos to educate you and so that you can actually have that data as well. And I take the data from the account and I share it. Ultimately, you could get a lot more of this data just like this by subscribing to this channel and not have to go through everything that I learned. So you could get multi-millions in sales going for your account profitably. You just have to follow my lead and just learn from me, and you don't have to go through the same mistakes. For that, you should subscribe to the channel. I promise you're not going to find better information online because I put a lot of work into sharing the data that I have, and it'll help you out become a multi-millionaire running ads for your company. As is, you should be able to if you can get ads to successfully work for your brand and scale them profitably, as it does for many others. So subscribe, and then also check out my blog on my site at guaranteeppc.com/blog. The blog has step-by-step information on how to actually make money with ads, the way that I'm doing it to literally guarantee our clients results with the screenshots, with everything you need to use and see them and see how it works. So if you like the channel, you should check out the blog as well at guaranteedppc.com/blog. If you have any questions about anything I'm covering here, by the way, leave me a comment below. I get back to everybody who leaves me a question in the comment section and it doesn't have to be about the topic at hand. It can be about anything. Or if you want, you can reach out through my PPC group that I started on Discord. You can find that link in the video description where I'm in there answering questions of the guys and gals that are in there. They're also, I got people in there that follow the channel. They're in there able to answer your questions as well. It's a really good group, and it's a private group just for the Guaranteed PPC crowd. And then, of course, beyond that, by the way, if, you're already doing at least, let's say, $500 million a year in sales revenue at your company already, at that point in time, it makes sense to just hire me to personally set up your ads, because I'm going to set up the best way, and I'm going to guarantee you get enough revenue increase from what you're doing up front to offset the management fee. You would like a 8-quarter projection of what we could do for you with the strategies I know about that are already effective from our other client accounts. Reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com, and I'll be happy to provide that for you for free of cost. In addition to that, I also have ad templates available. If you are in a market that we've already been in, which we've been in hundreds of different niche markets in the last over a decade running this firm now, we can sell you the winning ads, landing pages, campaign templates, all of it that work for your niche market. And you copy paste that set of templates that we have for your market into your ad accounts, and you can get the same results that we did without having to spend years optimizing ads in your space already. So if you're interested in that, also let me know, and I'll let you know what results we got in your market and what, the market that you're interested in, given that, people a lot of times take these templates and they start other businesses with it, which it's like having a business on training wheels. The hard part of the business is already figured out, and you can build a business around something new versus trying to figure out how to get ads to work for your market. Even if you need and if you have a one-off question, by the way, not only can you reach out to me in the comment section and I can respond, but you can do a private call with me. I do those with agency owners. I do it with non-agencies alike, and I can go over anything that you're planning and let you know what the likelihood of it working is, or if you're stuck, figure out together what it is that we need to do. I'm very good at spotting bottlenecks in businesses and why campaigns don't work and what to do about it. So getting back to what I was saying here, now I talked about e-commerce as a whole. Now, when we're talking about non-e-commerce, when we're doing lead generation, so this is a whole different animal. Okay, now the general trend of desktop doing better than mobile/tablet traffic is the case with lead generation campaigns or non-e-commerce. That is the case. It just has less of a difference by far. The difference in your cost per lead that you're going to be paying /ROI is going to be minus 20% dealing with mobile/tablet traffic versus desktop tablet. At least in most markets, that is non-emergency markets, and I'll explain what that is in a second. But generally speaking, that's the case. So it's not a make or break when you're talking about lead generation. Back in the day, when mobile traffic started to come around, when I first started doing this agency here back in 2014, the mobile traffic converted at way less of a rate, both for a non-e-commerce as well as e-commerce. I believe the main thing that happened is the websites got better at handling mobile traffic. The browser on mobile devices got better, and therefore it's just easier to fill out your details. There's autocomplete. You can save your form details from one website to another. Same thing with your credit card details. And this changed a lot overall. So, whereas back in the day, the mobile traffic was 10% of what desktop traffic cost because nobody could really monetize it that well. Nowadays, the cost is similar. You're still going to pay more for desktop, but the conversion rate's better on mobile, even though you still are going to get a better ROI on desktop traffic because people really just don't understand that mobile traffic, it certainly just isn't as good as desktop traffic. So you're going to be getting a better ROI on desktop traffic, even though you have to pay a little bit more. Because what the average Joe is going to do is they're going to compare mobile to desktop traffic together and say, oh, mobile's cheaper. Therefore, we'll get a better deal spending our money on mobile. When really, mobile converts less as a whole. It has a less conversion rate than the desktop traffic. So people are going to pile into this, overpricing this for what it's worth, and your desktop traffic's underpriced, and therefore going after desktop traffic, you're going to make more money per dollar spent than you will with the mobile traffic. That is why the ROI is better on desktop traffic. People just don't track the results all the way through to a sale. and then look at the ROI and the profit margin on it. So therefore, they're misinformed as to where to place their ad money. Therefore, the opportunity is with desktop traffic as a whole. Got it? Now, getting into what I was mentioning before about emergency services. Now, for most markets, desktop's going to get a better ROI. There's one general category of business where that's not generally the case. And that is, or just the case at all, we'll just say, and that is any market where you're talking about emergency services. So we're talking air conditioning repair services, towing services, water damage restoration services, anything where you basically need to do like home service, if you will. We're not just exclusively, but local service where somebody needs somebody like now or almost right away, if you will. It's not home renovation services where, you know, you're planning it out for weeks and months. We're talking about something that something's broke. You need somebody now or ASAP, we'll just say. In that case, those markets, mobile traffic kicks the living shit out of desktop traffic to the point where you'll do very well just running mobile traffic in those spaces. And very few people know this. I hate to share this method because a lot of people are going to start, you know, not doing desktop traffic anymore and loading up on mobile in the markets that I'm in. We're in dozens, local service markets. And so I shouldn't be sharing this, but I am, because you know what I do here on this channel is I'm sharing the stuff that works, and that's the way that it is, even though I know it comes back to bite me a lot of times when people start encroaching in our markets with the strategies that I use in those markets. Anyway, so in that case, you should do mobile traffic only if you're not getting a positive ROI currently. Ultimately, though, just to give you an idea of just how much mobile traffic does better in those markets, it's very common, like even in HVAC/air conditioning repair, 75 to 90% of your business is just purely going to come from mobile traffic. And your ROI on the mobile traffic is going to be 2 to 5 times better than it is for desktop traffic. Why is that? Well, of course, I don't have any proof to back this up, but it just makes logical sense, right? That if you have an air conditioning that's broken, you're just going to go to your phone for that. Why would you go to a desktop computer? I mean, naturally, some people don't have smartphones and they're forced to, which is why I would still do desktop. I'm just not going to spend nearly as much per click. And even with that said, I'm going to break out a separate campaign to run desktop because it's going to convert so much differently in terms of optimization. Or like what we do at our firm is we're going to track the lead to sale rate. We're going to use offline conversion tracking so that when we get a sale, we're going to plug the sales revenue back into our ad account using the offline upload process. And then we're going to tell Google, hey, we want a 500% return on our ad spend here. Ultimately, it'll start to weed out the desktop traffic, or at least, should I say, bid less per click for the desktop traffic, because it understands already from the data that we've collected and the revenue data that we've uploaded to the system on Google Ads that desktop just simply doesn't have the same conversion potential in terms of the quality of user that we're getting. And to downgrade our bid on desktop to bring in some desktop traffic, but at least priced at a point in which it gets now a ROI or ROAS similar to the mobile traffic, so that, you know, ultimately we're willing, you know, the system realizes and forces into effect a cost per click on desktop that is only 30% of what we're paying on mobile to get, you know, sales coming in from mobile and desktop, but at a similar ROI at the end of the day. So, and that's about what it is, by the way, in terms of the spread, in terms of the ROI desktop versus mobile, when you're talking about click for click, assuming the cost per click was the same for each, if you will, which it's not the same, but it's close. But the mobile traffic converts at a much higher rate than in terms of the lead to sale rate on mobile versus desktop. Whereas the actual conversion rate from click to lead is similar mobile to desktop, but the closing rate's much higher on mobile. On a mobile device, they're ready to do it now. I mean, they're on their phone. They're ready to do it now. Whereas on desktop, you got time to really screw around. If you've actually had time to sit down on your ass in front of a computer, you've got time to think it over. Whereas the mobile guy, he ain't going through and getting 20 quotes probably. More often, he's just getting the one quote. So, but that's the one market where I know for sure the whole desktop converts better and, or more importantly, has a better ROI than mobile/tablet traffic, where that whole statement there is not true anymore. Of course, I could get into, like I was saying earlier, into, okay, this market, this is a little wonky. This market over here is a little wonky. I can go on and on for hours like this because I've seen hundreds of accounts and what happens. I pay attention to the desktop versus mobile in different markets. Your best bet, if you have questions about a certain market, is just to ask me in my Discord group that I've started, and I can get you specific data on your market. If I've been in your market, I can tell you, or the most close market, in case you're really wondering about this, without having to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in ad spend to get enough data that will definitively tell you what the ROI is for mobile/tablet versus desktop traffic, because I've got the data, and I will be happy to do that for you. I prefer you would reach out through our group for that type of information, and I'll answer your question there because I can share that information with other people in the group, and they're also going to learn as well. But, nevertheless, contact me any way you want. But yeah, that is in a nutshell what it is I wanted to cover here in terms of teaching you the difference between mobile traffic and desktop traffic. The main purpose of, and in summary, you also want to do desktop traffic. You also want to do mobile because there's customers there in both. What you do want to do, though, is you want to only pay so much for mobile versus desktop so that you are overpaying for mobile and treating it the same as desktop, and then maybe not getting even a profitable ROI for yourself on mobile because you're just simply paying the same amount per click there as you would with desktop. Ultimately, if you were to just run the desktop in a lot of markets, you're going to pump up your ROI by 20 to 80% depending on what market you're in and what you're selling, or even double your ROI just going with desktop only. Or in local emergency type markets or urgent markets, you could also 3x your profitability just going mobile only in that particular case. So that goes over the numbers of how much opportunity there is. If you're not profitable enough, maybe you just go one or the other depending on what market you're in. Or if you want to make more money, you're already making a profit, a negative ROI, you're making a profit. Maybe you take a separate campaign, you break out mobile on just one campaign, desktop on one campaign, and that'll help you scale given that you can control your budget on each. I would consider doing that in the urgent local service category like I was talking about before. You can actually do bid adjustments on the device level, but generally speaking, getting your revenue into your ad account, that's the proper way, and then using smart bidding and maximize conversion value bidding strategy to have the system optimize your proper cost per click on each is the real way to do it. If you weren't using and had revenue coming into your account, that's the time when I would do bid adjustment / breakout separate campaigns. But for me at our agency, we're just going to feed in the revenue data regardless if we're doing lead gen or e-commerce. The revenue data is going in there, and the system is going to optimize for whatever profit, optimize the bids to maximize sales at the ROI we tell Google we want with maximize conversion value bidding strategy on mobile and tablet and desktop to get us the most sales at the ROI that we say that we want, and that's going to get us the most money without having to overcomplicate it. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to wrap it up with that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. If you want to see another video, click here. It is one of my best ones.